Joined once again by FC Isle of Man manager Lee Dixon. Now, Lee, first 2 games, 4 points from a possible 6 in your opening 2 games and 2 clean sheets. And with the rest going into this weekend, up against the Ramsbottom United side that have been up toward the sharp end of this league in the last couple of seasons. What kind of challenge are you expecting this Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be a massive challenge. I don't think there's any doubts about their qualities. As you just alluded to there, they've spent pretty much their whole of the last 3 seasons in the playoff places and not managed to get out of the league yet, which just represents really how hard it is to get out of it. But yeah, I think they've recruited some really good players in the summer, and we're expecting a really tough challenge. I think you'd have to say Ramsbottom are up there with the favourites to win the league this season.
And from your side of things, of course, you've had 11 days once this weekend comes around between this weekend and the game against Glossop as well. So although that could be a good physical rest for the players, how do you try and keep up the positive momentum you had in the previous games, given it has been an extended break?
Yeah, obviously it's difficult. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Obviously, if the games come too thick and fast at the start of the season, it can be too much too early. But the other side of it is, like you pointed out, we've had an 11-day break, and you've got to also then, off the back of what's been a pretty positive start, you've got to try and maintain momentum and keep the spirits within the camp up. We trained last Thursday, had a not such a difficult session last Thursday off the back of the 2 tough games, and then we met on Saturday morning and did a lot of work, a lot of physical work, really pushed the lads. I've never seen so many lads throw up in one training session. That was a new one for me, but it shows you what the lads are willing to put in. And then we've had a good session on Tuesday night, speaking towards about the game on Saturday, and hopefully we can put it into practice again on Saturday like we have in the first 2 games and come away with positive result to keep the momentum.
And now that obviously quite a few days have passed since those first 2 games of the season, I mean, what are the kind of main positives you've picked up from those first 2 games going into training over the last few days and into this weekend that you could potentially build on?
I think what's been really, really clear to see is I asked of them in pre-season about, work ethic and being together and being willing to work hard for each other ahead of worrying about individuals. And I think they've all executed that for me. I don't think anyone that's watched the games could doubt what they were willing to give in them games. And we've gone into the red zone in both games, fought hard to not concede, especially against Glossop in the last 15 minutes. Our energy levels were just starting to flag, but I just thought the lads' mentality was absolutely brilliant, and I want to see much more of that. And obviously we've had that little break, and so hopefully that brings a bit of a freshness back into our game, and we can produce something very similar to what we did against St Helens on the Saturday in our first game of the season.
On the flip side of that, I mean, what are the sort of things that maybe you think could be improved upon or added to for this weekend?
Obviously, I want to see a little bit more quality with the ball. Inevitably, start of the season, it's all a little bit chaotic in the games, and both games have been. And we've been obviously very defensively, very strong. We've had a really tight, compact unit. One of the downsides of that's been, obviously, I think at times we could have showed much more composure. But I also understand that when the lads are all hands to the pump and you win the ball back, sometimes the decision-making cannot be great. So we've had a discussion around that, and sort of when we win the ball back in the transition, whether we can make better decisions in that first pass out to set us up then to break out as a team better, which hopefully will lead to a lot more chances. And going forward, I'm sure the season settles. It always does after the first 6 to 8 games. You always get a slightly different kind of feel after that. But at the minute, we're definitely in that chaotic phase of everyone's fit, everyone's eager and keen to do well this season. And so hopefully over the coming games, we start to just see a little bit of an improvement in the transition, the passes out to set up the attacks, and also maybe a little bit more possession from us, making better decisions and when to keep the ball and play short, and when we turn teams around and get them facing their own goal if we need to turn the momentum of the game around.
In terms of the squad this weekend, what's availability looking like for you? Because of course you were forced into a few changes in the Glossop game, which was a midweek one.
Yeah, we've got everyone back available bar one. I think the only one who's missing this weekend is going to be Will Cowan. He's on a family holiday that's been booked for a long time, so he's the only one. So we're looking really good. We should have a really strong squad, and we will have a really strong bench. It's going to be some very disappointed players, but as I said to the lads on Tuesday, it's a good problem to have, because going back to last season at times it was a real struggle trying to get any kind of squad out at all, and so to get to the point now where we've got 19 to 20 really strong lads all fighting for positions in the team is a lovely problem, and just hopefully me and the coaching team can make the right decisions in terms of who we select to be able to impact the game at any given time if we need to.
And just finally on playing at the Bowl, and of course it's only second home game of the season, so you can't draw too many conclusions at all for this season, but I know previously in speaking to previous managers and whatnot that sometimes maybe the players have felt a bit of pressure on themselves a little bit to try and perform and give something back to the home crowd in a positive way, and sometimes that's meant results haven't maybe quite gone their way, maybe just a little bit of a composure composure or anxiety. So how do you try and get maybe rid of that particular challenge for the squad, take that pressure off them a little bit so that they can enjoy playing at home in front of a home crowd?
Well, what I've spoke to them about is, and I spoke to them about it pre-season, and I spoke to them about it in the change rooms before the first game, is the one thing nobody can stop you doing is working hard. That's completely on you. You can come up against good teams with good players who might on any given day outplay you and outscore you. And that's fine. There's nothing you can do about that. But the one thing no one can stop you doing is working hard. So I'll try to strip it all the way back to basics and get rid of that burden and put it back to the lads of at every single home game. I want to make sure we're the hardest working team in the league. Not just home games, that's away games as well. I want us to be the hardest working team in the league. And like I say, that's not anything you have to get off anyone else from other teams or the players or the managers. That's solely on your shoulders. And if you take it back to them kind of basics, I hope it relieves the sort of weight and the burden off the lads in that it's just a case of going and giving 100%. And I believe with the talent we have within our squad and the players, I believe that more often than not, the results will fall on the right side for us. And that's what we started the season like, and that's what we've executed so far. And hopefully, if we can just keep building on that, the pressure will be removed at home, and we'll actually become a bit of a fortress where people don't want to come to play against us because of what we're willing to do and how far we're willing to go to get results.
Thank you for having the stamina to make it to the end of the Manx Radio Sportscast. You're clearly someone who has their eye on the ball at all times. Want to hear more about the latest sporting news across the Isle of Man and much more? Then might I recommend you take the plunge and subscribe to this series or a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so that, in a flash, all of our finest moments take a winner's place on your smartphone. Thank you.